Sometimes when the sky is crystal clear and the nighttime finds herself at rest, free from city lights and noise pollution, I think of all the things that I love best. Got no time for TV or the news. Got no time to think of who done what. It's just me and the universe surrounding, and a heart so free and full of boundless love, wondrous love, wondrous love. Think of all the traveling that I've done. Think of all the traveling I could do. I could travel on and only travel around in circles till I'm blue. This sort of thought leaves me no despair. It pours me out, then fully fills me up. Leads my heart infinitely onward across the universe, bound with wondrous love, wondrous love. Someday the stars will align, and everyone watching will turn to one another and be kind.
Good morning. Welcome to United First Parish Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, welcome to our Unitarian Universalist spiritual community. As we gather today, we acknowledge we are on the traditional land of the Neponset Band of the Massachusetts tribe, a people who have lived here for generations and who live here now. I'm John Sinchak. My pronouns are he and him. Friends from near and far, here in person or via live stream, longtime members and friends and newcomers alike, welcome to each and all. First-time visitors or returning newcomers, if you're comfortable, go ahead and raise your hand or rise so that we might offer you a small token of welcome. Yes. We are glad you are here, and we hope you and everyone present today will join us for a social hour in the parish hall following the service. Our guest preacher this morning is Reverend Allison Jablonsky. Reverend Allie is a chaplain who has just completed 8 years serving as the Director of Spiritual Care at Tufts Medical Center. Allie is an affiliated community minister at Arlington Street Church, an instructor at Harvard Divinity School. Allie is a graduate of Harvard Divinity School, and while she was in Divinity School, Allie served as our Director of Religious Education. Welcome back to UFPC, Allie. It is good to have you in our sanctuary and pulpit this morning. Our worship team this morning includes greeters and ushers Albert and Jason, our live stream team Noel, our musicians Tony Winters and the UFPC choir, Flower Committee Pat and Claire, and Flower Committee members. Our lead minister, Reverend Rebecca, is homesick today with the flu and is joining us over Zoom. So from all of us, feel better, Reverend Rebecca. We strive to be a welcoming community to people of all ages and abilities. In the back of the sanctuary, near our ushers, you will find large print hymnals, hearing assistant headsets that connect to our sound system, which can also be helpful for people sensitive to distracting background noise, as well as children's books, busy bags, and drawing materials that families are welcome to bring to their seats. We have handicapped accessible bathrooms on our lower level with elevator access. Please see a greeter if you need to use the restroom during the service. As we prepare ourselves for worship, let us take a deep breath together, feeling the spirit of life and love that moves within, between, and beyond us all. With our hearts open for worship, I invite Reverend Alley to share a reading as I light our chalice, symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith.
We light our chalice this morning with words from poet Andrea Gibson. I know you think this world is too dark to even dream in color, but I've seen flowers bloom at midnight. I've seen kites fly in gray skies, and they were real close to looking like the sunrise. And sometimes it takes the most wounded wings, the most broken things, to notice how strong the breezes, how precious the flight.
Please rise as you are willing and able and join in reading our congregation's covenant. The words are found in your order of service and also in the chat on Zoom. As a free fellowship of this historic church, we unite to lift our hearts and open our minds to a larger reality, to accept, support, and encourage one another, to seek the wisdom in all religions, to cherish and sustain the web of life, and to strive for justice, compassion, and peace. Let us greet one another in the spirit of fellowship and peace.
You may remain standing as you're willing and able, and we will begin with our opening hymn, Just as Long as I Have Breath, which is number 6 in that gray hymnal, and we'll do all 3 verses. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I make my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to love.
Now I'll invite any of our Spirit Circle folks or anyone who feels compelled to come up to the front for our message for all ages. So this morning, maybe appropriately, we are coming together for a story about a young monk who feels overwhelmed by the storms in his life. Long ago, in a quiet mountain village, a young monk felt overwhelmed. Storms had battered the fields. The roof of the small temple he lived in leaked, and each day more people arrived with worries he didn't know how to ease. One afternoon, the young monk sat with his teacher beside a grove of bamboo. "I don't understand," he said. "Everything feels too heavy. I keep trying to be strong, but these storms just keep coming. I feel so worn down, like I'm about to break." The teacher nodded gently and then pointed toward the bamboo that was swaying in the wind. "Watch." A powerful gust sped down the mountainside. The bamboo stalks bent almost to the ground, but they did not break. When the wind passed, they rose again, tall and steady. Many people think resilience means standing firm against every challenge, the teacher said. But bamboo teaches something different. It does not resist the wind. It bends and then it rises again. The teacher brushed aside a leaf, revealing a small green shoot pushing through the soil. "Look at this one. Only a few weeks old, yet already reaching upward. It doesn't worry about how many storms have come and how many will come next. It just keeps growing toward the light." The young monk touched the tiny stalk and felt its surprising strength. "But teacher," he said, "what if the storm is too strong? What if we bend so far that we cannot rise again?" The teacher placed a hand on his shoulder. "That is when we rely on the grove." The young monk looked around, and he suddenly saw what he had missed before. The bamboo was all connected underground. Though each stalk stood alone above the earth, their roots were intertwined below. "When one stalk is weakened," the teacher continued, "the whole grove helps hold it up. Resilience is not a solitary path. It grows from connection, just like these roots." As the wind began to blow again, the young monk watched the bamboo move together, supporting one another with every sway. And something inside him shifted just a little bit, a sense of strength that wasn't just his own, but shared. "Thank you," he said. "I think I understand now." The teacher smiled. "Storms will come again. But with a community of support, so will our rising." And now I'm going to ask our community to help us sing our children down to Spirit Circle.
Through the sharing of our joys and sorrows, we create a sacred space where we are deeply present with ourselves and with one another. This is a time to briefly share the life milestones that lift your spirits in joy or hope, or the pains and losses that fill you with heartache. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, please come forward, share your name, and speak from this microphone.
Let us return to that deep breath of life and love that is always there to ground and to guide us. Wherever you are, let us be connected by the knowledge that in this moment we all take a deep breath together and ease in. And together, let us share a time of silent meditation. I invite you to lift your hearts and join me in a spirit of prayer, listening in these words for the language that is most meaningful to you. Source of all love, may we feel our loved ones close, those beside us, those who have gone before us, and those who sit at the delicate veil. May we remember the majesty and the incredible power of helping, especially in moments where we can feel powerless. May we remember how much our love for each other means, how much it has meant. May our concerns, our fears, our devastation for all who are ravaged by violence help contribute to peace. May those ravaged by violence, especially in the Middle East and everywhere, have what they need, have safety, have love, have security. May our knowledge that we worry together keep us from isolation. May we hold on to hope, even as we tremble. May we find resiliency in the storms. And may the light of love reach us where we shiver. May we continue to hold on to each other. Amen. As you remain seated, I invite you to join me in singing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Fill in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
This reading is a poem by Andrea Gibson. It's called Acceptance Speech for Setting the World Record in Goosebumps. I wasn't by any means a natural, was not one of those wow hounds born jaw-dropped. I was tough in the husk, went years untouched by rain, took shelter seriously, even and often, especially in good weather. My tears like teenagers hiding under the hoods of my eyes, so committed they were to never falling for the joke of astonishment. When I was told there were 7 wonders of the world, I trusted the math, believed I had seen none of them. Of course, beauty hunted me. It hunts everyone. But I outran it, hid in worry, regret, the promise of an afterlife or a week's end. Then one day, in a red velvet theater in New Orleans, I watched Maya Angelou walk on stage, 17 slow steps to the mic. She took a breath before speaking, and I could hear God being born in that breath. My every pore reached out like a hand pointing to the first unsinkable lotus in the bayou of the universe. I'd never felt anything like it. Searched the encyclopedia for the feeling's name when I got home. Goosebumps. Afterwards, I thought, I can do this. Started training morning to night, crowbar swinging like a pendulum at the wall of my chest. Tore the caution tape off my life and let everything touch it. Allen Iverson on the television in his first season with the Sixers, crossover sharp as a V of sparrows flying through the paint like Michelangelo's brush. 333 goosebumps. My baby sister, sober for the first time in 13 years, calling to tell me she just noticed our mother's eyes are green. 505 goosebumps. One day, my friends scored tickets to a Prince concert, tiny venue. I was right behind the sound booth. Prince's entire band that evening, women. At the end of the show, the sound person turned around and whispered, he didn't play one song on his set list the whole night. I live on stages. I know what it is to scratch a plan, but not the whole trip and still arrive to your destination 200 years before your time. 421 goosebumps. But that's just the fancy stuff. Some of them came from the simple facts. It rains diamonds on Jupiter. 189 goosebumps. Blood donors in Sweden receive a thank you message when their blood is used. 301 Nordic goosebumps. One night in Ann Arbor, my friend, still undiagnosed, could not uncurl her fingers to strum her guitar, so she sang the chords instead. It was the first time in my life I'd seen pain become an instrument. 10 dozen goosebumps. For each and every note plucked from the string section of her refusal to silence her dream. After that, nothing in the world was gray. Even the movie of my past was released in color. The old man in my hometown could not get to the door to listen to our carols, so we went inside and sang at his bedside instead. 24 boots on the front step, catching snowflakes with their tongues. 776 goosebumps. At one point, everything started doing it. A sincere apology, 221 goosebumps. An enemy's love poem, 222 goosebumps. The moon rising over the continental divide. My girlfriend and I thought it was a car driving off a cliff, and suddenly nothing in the world was dying. You ever felt that? A split second when nothing in the world is dying. 888 goosebumps. And the next day, I sharpened a tiny axe so I could split the seconds myself. Too much lives in a moment to not feed it to the fire in the heart. Slow. A Missoula treehouse filled with candlelight. 143 goosebumps. The Octopus documentary, 54 goosebumps. multiplied by 8. The biggest dog in the shelter, hiding behind a teacup chihuahua, and the woman who came to adopt a cat, taking all 3 of them home. 1,012 goosebumps. There is no escaping the magic now. Beauty caught me and never let me go. And the thing about the world record is, if someone breaks it after me, and they will break it after me, I will love that so much that without even trying, I will break it again.
If you would only start to live one moment at a time, you would, I think, be startled by the things that you would find, like scents you never noticed, and many subtle sounds, like colors in the landscape and textures of the town. Then the winds would lift you up into the sky above, and you'd be treated to a view of everything you love. And if the moment passes, you should try it once again. For if you get it right, you'll find the moment never ends.
Thank you, Tony. Do you dread getting asked what you do for work? Can you anticipate the response? Do you ever make up a fake profession? I've heard that some ministers do. I don't. Every time I answer that I am a hospital chaplain working on intensive care units, the response is often, "That must be so depressing." As chaplains, we see a lot of hard things. Most of my days include being beside someone as they die, joining doctors in giving family members and patients bad news, and being beside patients, families, and colleagues as they grapple with very difficult feelings and realities. We see a lot of hard things, and many of the most beautiful moments of my life have happened within hospital walls. These goosebumps that Andrea Gibson describes, I get them all the time in the hospital. In this place that is known to be depressing and full of pain, in a place that is full of devastation and pain. In the momentary interaction with the stranger in a grocery store line or on a plane who thinks that my job must be so depressing, I rarely get to tell them about the goosebumps and about the ways they change me and how they change my relationship to others and to our world. I don't get to tell them about how the goosebumps awaken my soul and grow my heart. My friends, I am glad that we get a little time to talk about the goosebumps, because the world is depressing and terrifying and overwhelming and dark, especially for us, for Unitarian Universalists dedicating ourselves to love and justice and service, who believe in the inherent worth and dignity of all people. I think the goosebumps can get us through the dark. I think the goosebumps can help us find the light and help us keep the light alive. So I want to take you on a tour of just some of my hospital goosebumps. Maybe the moments that gave me goosebumps might give you some goosebumps too. and I would love to get to give you some goosebumps. I was on an ICU with a patient that I'll call Jean. When I tell stories about my work, I change identifying details to protect my patients and families and colleagues, but I keep the essence of what happened. Jean was very angry at her body and angry at everyone caring for her body. She had suffered a heart attack and had to give up the job she had had for over 30 years and was being told she probably couldn't return to the home she had shared with her husband, who had just died a year ago. Jean had thrown her lunch plate against the wall and yelled at Katie, the attending doctor. Jean had yelled at Katie many times, and Katie was tired. "I am leaving this hospital," Jean said. "You can't," Katie said. "You will not survive. It is not safe." Jean screamed. I asked Jean where she needed to go. "I am going to miss my daughter's wedding, and we are finally talking again. I have to be there to help her plan it." The room was silent. We felt her pain. The room was full of empathy and goosebumps. Jean's nurse, Shane, called Jean's daughter, Bryn. "Is there any chance you would like to have a little wedding here? We have a chaplain." So Bryn called me. What would that look like? The next day, Jean was doing worse. Drenched in sweat and full of pain, Jean forced out the words, "I need to be there for Bryn." We called Bryn. "Well," she said, "let's do a little wedding." "We should move quickly," Katie, the doctor, said. We planned a ceremony for the next day and told Jean. Jean rolled her eyes at us. "It will be pitiful." The next day, pediatric nurses came with a red carpet. We use these for our talent shows. We rolled the red carpet into Jean's room. The kitchen sent up fancy appetizers. The charge nurse brought in a small wedding cake. Jean's social worker brought in flowers. I printed and framed the blessing that we would use. Katie came with a box. "I thought Bryn might want this," Katie said. She said she didn't have anything to wear. I saw Katie open the box to Bryn, who gasped as she pulled out a veil. "I loved it too," Katie said. "I had a really happy wedding, and I thought you might want something borrowed, or it can be something given. You can keep it if you want to wear it to your wedding next year. That way you have something that your mom saw." Jean cried as she watched her room being transformed, and she cried as she held the rings while I blessed them. "I can't thank you all enough," she said. Bryn's wedding gave us all goosebumps, showing us that compassion can survive even if it isn't earned, showing us the human nature to want to help, showing us that love and kindness can help heal so many different wounds. On a different unit, I met a patient I'll call Patrick. Patrick was only a few years older than me and had been diagnosed with an aggressive cancer. He was taking a leave of absence from his graduate program to start treatment. His team was worried about him and asked me to come see him for support. "Can you get me some things?" he asked. "What do you need?" I said. "Well, I have wooden hearts and wood glue. They won't let me have a glue gun. And I have paint, but I'm out of ribbon and silver Sharpies." I didn't question Pat. I just came the next day with my Michaels purchases. "Thanks," he said. "I don't have a lot of time before Christmas." "Are you making Christmas gifts?" "I'm making ornaments to send to people who have experienced traumatic events. I promised to make 100, and I'm going to get them done." Goosebumps. Every couple of days, I checked on Pat, and we talked as he crafted. I realized that Pat is an incredible artist. I watch him turn wooden hearts into winter wonderlands and magical lands. His pile kept growing, and I helped him mail them. I stopped in to visit Pat before I flew home for Christmas. I brought him an ornament I had found at my favorite shop. "You should have an ornament too," I said. We had the same idea, Pat said, handing me an ornament with a beautiful drawing of the land of Oz, full of Christmas trees lining the yellow brick road. Pat knew I loved Wicked. It's beautiful, I said, my eyes filling with tears. I made one for each person on my team, Pat said. I figured you guys see a lot of traumatic things too. Goosebumps. Pat's generosity showed that so much of who Pat is survives his cancer, and that generosity can outlive a crisis. Connection and care are powerful elements of who we are. One last story. This one is about one of my favorite patients. I'll call him Manny. I was asked to see Manny not because he asked for a chaplain, but because his nurse thought he could use support. When I knocked on the door, Manny looked at my badge and said, "You're a chaplain?" "I am," I said. "Okay," he said. "Well, then you're not going to want to see me." I was confused. It's okay if Manny doesn't want to see me, but why would he think that I wouldn't want to see him? "Why?" I asked. "Well," he said, "I'm gay, so you're not going to want to see me." I paused. I said, "I'm gay too." Was not what Manny was expecting me to say. After a long pause, he said, "Do they know?" "They do," I said. "And they still let you be a chaplain?" he said. "They do." "Well," he said, "you can come in. You want to bless me with some ashes?" "It isn't Ash Wednesday," I said, "so I don't have ashes. I think the only thing I have in my office is glitter." Manny laughed, and we started conversations that went on for months and months. I learned that when Manny was 12, his pastor found out he was gay and told his parents, that they are welcome to keep coming to church, but they could not bring Manny. I learned how deeply this hurt Manny and how he was left at home with his grandparents while his parents and his friends went to church. Manny said that he always missed going to church, but he was afraid to be kicked out of another church, so he never tried again. Manny and I talked a lot as he was in the hospital for many procedures, and eventually there was nothing more the team could do for Manny. Manny knew that he was dying, and he asked me to be there to say a blessing. I grabbed some glitter and, crying the whole time, blessed it and brought it to Manny. I showed him the bag of sparkles. "You remembered," he said. Because Manny had been in the hospital for so long, and because his care and transition to comfort care was complicated, his room was very crowded. Manny's doctors, nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, social worker, and techs had all gathered, cramming in. I said a blessing for Manny and sprinkled some glitter and thought my job was done. But then a doctor reached his hand out and motioned to the glitter. I didn't know what he wanted, but I handed it to him. He took a little glitter, sprinkled it on Manny's head, and said, "May you have peace." He passed it to the next person. The glitter went around the room, each time accompanied with a wish, a prayer, an expression of love. It's, I think, all the same. After the glitter had gone all the way around the room and Manny was covered, he looked at me. "I guess I got my church after all, huh, chaplain?" Everyone had tears. Everyone had goosebumps. Manny's glitter blessing showed us how old wounds can find healing, how powerful community can be, and how powerful love can be. Andrea Gibson writes, "My every pore reached out like a hand pointing to the first unsinkable lotus in the bayou of the universe. I'd never felt anything like it." What do goosebumps feel like to you? For me, they feel like my soul and my heart being pulled to the light. And when there is light, the darkness cannot consume us completely. When there is light, the light can be shared. And when there is light, we can find our way out of the dark. Andrea writes that they tore the caution tape off my life and let everything touch it. The world can be depressing, excruciating, painful to look at, and scary to let in. Let yourself see everything, the painful and the beautiful, and let the goosebumps come. Goosebumps might not seem very powerful in the shadow of cancer or death or conflict, but goosebumps can lead you to the light in the dark hospital. They can guide you to the goodness and compassion and love that exists within incredible distress and pain. Hospitals are not the only dark places out there. In the shadow of the many devastating, unnatural disasters we face, may you still get goosebumps and never stop looking for them. May you tell about their power, and may you create goosebumps for those around you. May the goosebumps rouse our souls and grow our hearts and help us find each other and help us always find the light, especially when we are in the darkest of places. Amen.
Our closing hymn this morning is Love Will Guide Us, which is 131 in the hymnal, and we will do this the first two verses there, and there's actually two other verses that I had never heard before this week, but I think are very pertinent, written by the original songwriter, which are in your order of service, so follow along with those as well. Please rise as you are willing or able. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from grief to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. You are like no other being. What you can give, no other can give. To the future of our precious children, to the future of the world where we live. Hear the song of peace within you. Hear the song of peace in your heart. Spring's new beginning will lead to the harvest. Love will guide us on our way.
As a voluntary association, our church is sustained through the gifts of the members and friends of our congregation, past and present. Each Sunday, we invite members and friends to share their generosity in a weekly offering. And each spring, we enter a stewardship season where we invite people to make their pledge intention for the coming church year. During the stewardship season, we invite members and friends of the congregation to share how this congregation and our building are meaningful to them. I now invite Carl, committee chairman of the stewardship committee, to come up and speak to us about that.
So Brenda will be giving the testimonial in a moment, but I do want to cover a couple of business things. One is to invite you all to the fellowship hour afterwards. We will be collecting some thoughts from you on the value of the church to you that will feed into the theme of the stewardship campaign this year. The theme being for future generations, and this reflection will help us to feed your concerns, your thoughts, your hopes into the process of the capital campaign that the board is beginning. So it's very important to mesh those two things together, to use to focus the capital campaign on building this church for what we want to give to future generations. So that's first piece of business. Second piece of business, there's some questions that people always have, and rather than answer them 15, 20 times, I'm going to try and answer them once. When you pledge, you have a variety of choices in doing that. This is the wonder of the age we live in, but those choices bring confusion. You can give a check for your pledge at whatever interval you decide, monthly, weekly, or at the beginning of the year. That's sort of the conventional way. Or you can give a pledge envelope with cash in it. You can get envelopes as you come in, write your name on it, and that'll record, hey, I gave X dollars when I came into the offering plate. Those are wonderful things to do. The two new things that confuse people, or 1.5 new things, is giving online. So we have the Vanco form that's attached to the donate thing at the church, and you can give online there. You can do that one of two ways. You can fill out a paper form, in which case that pledge will expire at the end of the fiscal. It'll start at the end of the beginning of the fiscal year and at the end of the fiscal year. And you'll fill out the paper again next year. So you have that sort of reset. Many of us prefer not to do that because we're human and we forget things. If you fill out the pledge form, if you put your donation as a recurring pledge donation on the Vanco site, then it will not expire at the end of the year. It will continue on. So choose to do one or the other, either the Vanco form or on the Vanco website. If you do both, you'll get billed twice. You probably don't want that, although we might love it. If you use any of those methods, we still really, really, really need a pledge intention form from you, which tells the board, and in particular the treasurer, how much money we can expect this year. Because it turns out that if we don't know what money's coming in, we can't budget how to spend it, and we can't target it to serve the congregation and the community as best as possible. So the pledge intention form is really important. We really want that. The Vanco submittal form on paper or on the website, depending on whether you want it to expire at the end of the year or if you want it to carry over into the next year and then just adjust the payments as you go. So hopefully that clears things up for people. I'm willing to answer the questions in more detail if anybody has, but I wanted to just sort of limit the number of times. So with that, I would like to invite up to the podium for our stewardship testimonial, Brenda Reed.
Hi. When Rebecca called me on Friday and asked if I would provide my testimonial about what my relationship with the building and the congregation has been here, it caused me to kind of go back and do a little thinking. And I apologize in advance for the PTSD that my stewardship testimonial might activate in memories for some other long-term members of the church. Pretty much from the day this church was built in 1828, the roof leaked. During the 1990s, Any major, and I became a member here about 1992, any major rain resulted in buckets being placed strategically throughout the sanctuary and especially in the parish hall to catch dripping water. And, it leaves stains and things like that. So we knew we needed to do something. And in 1997, we applied for and were awarded a grant from the Massachusetts Preservation Fund of the Massachusetts Historical Commission. We planned to use that money to replace the badly leaking slate roof. We also knew that there was an engineering study completed back in 1978 from the Army Corps of Engineers that there were serious problems with the trusses, and that Alexander Paris, our very famous architect, had likely under-designed the trusses up above this domed ceiling, hence the leaks. That's why it was never watertight. Things took a dramatic turn in 1998, so even though we were awarded the grant, we had a lot of work to do in terms of fundraising and getting ready for this major project. When the structural engineer came and gave us the alarming report that the congregation, that subject to a heavy snowstorm, there was imminent danger of total roof failure and collapse. So think of that storm we had a week or so ago, would have brought the house down, literally. Before winter could begin in earnest that year, at the end of 1998, we raced to install scaffolding both inside and outside the sanctuary. So it was in here all around and outside, keeping the building up in case of snow. On one hand, amazingly, we were able to continue to hold church services during this major construction project. Also true, it was a dark time in this sanctuary, both literally and figuratively. The absence of sunlight and the lack of cash to pay for this mounting expenses weighed heavily on us. Today I brought in some old wedding photos to share with you to give you an idea of what it was like inside here. So in October of 1999, my husband and I got married here at the church with the scaffolding. John and I managed to have a joyful wedding, but not many couples chose to be married here at the time because of the dinginess, dirt, and grit that accompanies any construction project, right? There's just dirt. And in the summer of 1999, though, huzzah, we completed the structural work of installing steel trusses. So it was an amazing thing. So they were at that, I forget which end of the building they're at, but they came in and they would move these things in and then turn them sideways to align with the existing rotting trusses, wooden trusses that were in place. In a classic case of this old house, with cascading renovation problems, the work of shoring up the trusses caused major damage to this domed, suspended ceiling. After that gradual roof sag of many, many years, decades and decades, pulling up the ceiling with the now sturdy trusses caused the big chunks of plaster to start falling. So while the roof was no longer in danger of collapsing, we now had to add planks to the existing scaffolding to keep anyone from being hit by falling plasters, so that we could continue to hold services here. We kept chugging forward, and we completed full restoration of the ceiling, so plaster and paint, and even that process is like a huge story all on its own for another day. But we completed that in spring of 2000. And then that same summer, the slate was finally on the roof, which is kind of where we began this project. The slate was replaced with flashing downspouts, gutters, and snow rails. And so that, my friends, was how a $240,000 slate roof replacement project ballooned to a $1.6 million renovation of all those things together. We did not have the money for that. So some of you heard about how we sold a very valuable church asset of early colonial silver to cover the cost of the project. Again, a story for another day. But that silver dated back, it preceded Paul Revere's silver by about 150 years. It was very old. But it was a hair-raising time. We hear the story on the other end of it. And it doesn't really communicate the stress that went into the membership for all those things to happen over a series of years. And the important thing I think to understand about that time was the work of discernment that the congregation did to define our mission in the midst of crisis. And we determined that the building without the congregation is a mausoleum or a museum. It only looks backward in time. But we also discerned that the congregation without the building, like if we moved away, would be a disinheriting of the legacy, vision, and values of our forebears. Today, in this very space, we celebrate major moments of our lives, births, weddings, funerals, weekly Sunday services, meaning making, as a continuation of a long tradition of the search for truth, social justice, and pluralism here in Quincy. So what we see around us and throughout the building is the sum total of what every congregant since 1639 has contributed in time or treasure. Pledging is critical for the funding of the programs that sustain us as a church, sustain our community, so that we can collectively do the work for future generations. We have to be like-minded in order to pull off things of this scope. And it enables us to sit in a sanctuary that we didn't build under a ceiling that didn't collapse under our watch. So I urge you, just as I will be doing, to please take the time to discern what your contribution is to this ongoing story of congregational life.
Thank you, Brenda. Even as we begin our stewardship season to reflect on the coming year, this morning, like every Sunday, we invite you to make an offering to the church. You can give online by going to ufpc.org and clicking on the donate button, or you can place a donation in the offering plates here in the sanctuary. If this is your first time worshiping with us, please let the offering plate pass you by. Your presence here today is your gift to us, and we hope you will join us following the service for social hour. May the offering to support the good works of United First Parish Church be joyfully given. Know it will be gratefully received. Here at United First Parish Church, we gather in many ways to nourish the spirit, nourish community, put our faith into action, and participate in the life and leadership of our congregation. You could read about our upcoming programs in the green sheet in your order of service, a few to highlight today. There will be a writing group meeting today after the social hour. We invite everyone to join us in a free writing session. This Thursday, book group, the book of the month they're reading is Walk Like a Girl by Prabal Gurung, and a memoir charting his journey from growing up queer in Nepal and India to becoming a renowned fashion designer in New York. And importantly, next Sunday, if you're a newcomer, we have newcomer orientation. And if you have questions about the congregation or Unitarian Universalism in general, please feel free to come. And that will be facilitated by Reverend Rebecca.
I invite you to rise as you are willing and able and place your hand over your heart for our benediction. This is called For Hope in Hard Times. Sometimes she is easy to find, the life of the party, the driver of the journey, the lighthouse bringing you home. But sometimes she has to make herself very small to reach the most fragile places within us. She has to be careful for us. When living has fractured the foundation of your being, may you feel her gently settle within you. May her dim light be just enough to guide you a few steps. May her soft song be just enough to ease your heart a few beats. May her touch be felt just enough to remind you, you are not alone. May hope, in her smallest form, nuzzle beside the fear, anger, and grief that living sometimes needs us to know. When you are most frail, may she be a flutter, affecting the winds ever so slightly, and making possible the potential for a new course. But you need not move right now. May she find you. She will find you. Please turn towards the center aisle and join me in singing our chalice extinguishing words as we offer one another a mutual benediction.
Have you ever fed a lover with just your hands? Close your eyes and trust it, just trust it. Have you ever thrown a fistful of glitter in the air? Have you ever looked fear in the face and said, I just don't care? And it's only half past the point of no return, the tip of the iceberg, the sun before the burn, the thunder before the lightning, the breath before the phrase. Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever hated yourself for staring at your phone? Your whole life waiting on the ring to prove you're not alone. Have you ever been touched so gently you had to cry? Have you ever invited a stranger to come inside? It's of oblivion, the hourglass on the table, the walk before the run, the breath before the kiss, and the fear before the flames. Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever wished for an endless night? Lassoed the moon and the stars and pulled that rope tight. Have you ever held your breath and asked yourself, will it ever be better than tonight?